Nancy Pelosi is set to release Trump's tax returns on Friday. And that gives us at RPW Media a delicious idea. Let's get into it. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the channel, where we are the antidote to the daily onslaught of radical woke Marxist propaganda. So Nancy Pelosi, in her final FU to the nation, is set to release Trump's tax returns this coming Friday to try to embarrass him and the rest of us in the Republican Party. We already did a video on this the other day where Trump's tax returns have nothing special in them, and they show the normal ebbs and flows and gains and losses along with the economy's gains and losses, and they're about as boring as a fake news media story on the subject. But that doesn't matter for Pelosi, who is an evil person to the core, that she would do something like this to one person. And for what? Because he got elected and he didn't agree with her woke radical agenda? Come on. So our writer Steve came up with what I think is a brilliant idea after the House was able to get President Trump's tax returns by claiming they were needed for an investigation they were doing. A lot of Americans don't know that the Congress cannot act like a criminal court the way they did with the January 6th committee. In order for them to do any of the things they do in an investigation, they have to have a legislative purpose. So Pelosi and the Democrats said that they were doing an investigation for legislative reasons into Trump's tax returns. Yeah, okay. Yeah, and I'm Mary, Queen of Scots. So they want you to believe that they were going to create legislation for a single person's tax returns that have nothing outrageous in them. So Steve, the writer, he came up with the idea of Republicans, once they take over the House in January, they should open up a serious investigation into Paul and Nancy Pelosi for insider trading. Now, it would be difficult for Pelosi to fight it since she's already created a precedent for acquiring Trump's tax returns. I'll bet dollars to donuts that their tax returns will be much more interesting than Donald Trump's. And of course, their tax returns will be released to the public because the public has the right to know, just like she believed the public had the right to know about Trump's tax returns. Now, Pelosi has never, ever released her tax returns. Can you guess why? Why do you think every one of Pelosi's stock trades made a profit for Paul Pelosi and herself? The only thing is, if the House does open an investigation into Pelosi's stock scheme, the Securities and Exchange Commission will probably announce that they are also opening an investigation, but not to get to the bottom of things, but to shield the Pelosi's from the House investigation. Because you know how they always say, well, we can't comment on a current investigation that will not end. That means that the investigation will never end, depriving Republicans of the opportunity to inspect them for legislative purposes. As Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi represented her family's interests first. You know how Trump was always America first? Well, Nancy Pelosi was the Pelosi family first. People began following Paul Pelosi because he never placed a losing bet, thanks to insider trading of Nancy Pelosi, what she had. And Nancy will tell you that it was not illegal what she did. And it's true because the Democrats exempted themselves from insider trading laws. Things that you and I would be prosecuted for. They exempted themselves. Nancy Pelosi took her son, Paul Jr., with her on a trip to Asia. Just like Joe Biden took Hunter Biden on his trip to Asia. Okay, got those lucrative deals in China. And Pelosi allowed her son to attend an insider's meeting. Now, what the hell would the son of the Speaker of the House be invited into an insider's meeting for? Upon his return to the United States, okay, from his Asian trip with his mommy, his Asian stock portfolio jumped a whopping 30% in just 1 week. Isn't that some coincidence? Now, from the Gateway pundit, Paul Pelosi Jr. traveled to Asia and attended meetings with his mother, who was Speaker of the House at the time during her recent trip to the region. Remember when she went and they made that big stink about going to Taiwan and all of that? Well, Paul Jr. was named as an unnamed guest because the Pelosi crime family was trying to keep his participation on the down low. As the Gateway pundit dug deeper into Paul Pelosi's secret or unannounced tour of Asia, they found something quite interesting. Paul Pelosi Jr. appears to be yet another Hunter Biden, or even worse. During that trip, Paul Jr. kept himself in the spotlight, possibly to impress his Asian business partners. Now, he was spotted at several official meetings with Nancy Pelosi in Malaysia, Singapore, Taiwan, and Japan. But Paul Pelosi Jr. suddenly disappeared in South Korea, just like Hunter Biden disappeared after that restaurant in China with Chinese officials. So you have to wonder what that was all about in South Korea. Well, it has to do with a company called St. George's Eco Mining Corporation. There was a press release that went out that said that St. George's Eco Mining Corporation is pleased to announce that it has, along with EVSX, its battery recycling subsidiary, entered into a binding term sheet with Wintech Energy Company Limited of Seoul, Korea, and Z1 Corporation from Canada. The executed agreement covers technological development and licensing for the production of what is referred to as the greatest hydrogen on the market. Isn't that special? The parties agreed to put in place on or around February 5th of 2022, earlier this year, a series of long-form agreements that will cover technological licensing, operations, the setup of a pilot plant, and further research and development. EVSX has negotiated the acquisition of an exclusive license for Nevada, Iceland, Quebec, and Ontario, and a limited exclusivity for mining and natural resources for Canada. St. George's is a co-signatory and beneficiary of the agreement. And it just so happens that Paul Pelosi Jr. became the president of St. George's subsidiary, EVSX, which is dedicated to electric vehicle battery recycling. And now it all makes sense. So Nancy Pelosi took her son with her on an official Asian trip that she didn't really have to take. And outside of all the fanfare and all the news that China was upset that she was going to go to Taiwan, the real reason for the trip was for her to use her influence as Speaker of the House of Representatives of the United States to get her son a very lucrative business deal that he otherwise would never have gotten. Paul Pelosi. Could this be why the Democrats are pushing so hard for electric vehicles? I would love to know how many other Democrats have extremely lucrative deals in the electric car industry around the world. It seems that they'll sell out their own mother in order to get a lucrative deal. There have been many instances where Nancy Pelosi pushed programs that used taxpayer dollars that benefited her husband, which means that they both would benefit. For example, there was this one deal that they were working on where Paul Pelosi purchased a building, an office building in San Francisco. It was just a regular run-of-the-mill office building. But Nancy Pelosi pushed for years to have a rail line go by that part of the city and to have a train station stop right outside that building to make it worth quadruple what he paid for it. Now, this is the kind of crap you get from the Democrats. And so you have to wonder, what is Nancy Pelosi trying to hide, to cover up with this release of Trump's tax returns? Just like she knew that there was nothing in the transcripts of the phone call between Trump and President Zelensky of Ukraine, she knows that there's absolutely nothing inside the tax returns that would embarrass him or prove any criminality whatsoever. So the question is, and you should find out as much as you can with research if you can do it, what the hell was Pelosi trying to hide, Pelosi and the other Democrats? Is she trying to hide this story about her son because it's finally coming out? Who knows? Well, that's it. Thanks a lot. Check out the videos at the end. I think you'll like them. Thanks for being with us, and we'll see you in the next one.